You know, Elon Musk is not the only silly man. There are other silly men.
Right. Well, you know, the billionaire owner of the Dallas Maverick basketball team, his name is Mark Cuban, and they're calling it the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yes, we're not going to mention the coin he invested in, but he invested in one of these thousands of alternative coins to Bitcoin and had the rug pulled, as they say. It was a scam, and it was an exit scam. They took his money and ran along with other investors. And the thing is that here's a billionaire, obviously qualified, sophisticated investor who got duped, scammed. And what did he do immediately? Well, he was talking to Joe Wiesenthal over at Bloomberg, and over on Twitter, he was tweeting out that we need some regulations.
Yeah, so there's two parts to this. First, all of these so-called altcoins, including Ethereum, and this particular garbage coin is built on top of Ethereum, they only exist to steal people's Bitcoin, right? So the world is full of Sharpies, and they're looking for chumps like Mark Cuban. And he falls right into it because, as I've said on this show and other shows for over a year now, narcissism and Bitcoin don't mix. If you're a narcissist, you don't really grok or get Bitcoin so much because there's no center to it. There's nobody really taking credit for it. And you have to be humble before Bitcoin. And that doesn't work with egomaniacal, narcissistic, easy billionaire nincompoops like a Mark Cuban. So he was a chump waiting to happen, right? So that we predicted actually it was going to happen to Mark Cuban, and exactly what I predicted would happen happened, just because I know that type. The second thing is that you've got
I'm going to look at
the chart.
30-year treasury note. So here we showed the chart of the scam coin that Mark Cuban, multi-billionaire, sophisticated investor, owner of businesses, had invested in, and they had the rug pulled from them. So I want to look at another story that Max and I have obviously been covering on Keiser Report for years, and that's the coming rug pull of the US dollar. And here's the 30-year treasury yield after the Fed chairman Powell spoke. First, he was suggesting that there's inflation and blah, blah, blah. When they, on Bloomberg and CNBC and the financial press, say, you know, the problem with Bitcoin is it's too volatile. This is like this is the underlying collateral of quadrillions in the economic activity, derivatives, financial products, all of that is represented in that. And that's like a rug pull, looking like a rug pull sort of move.
Well, this is another scam. So as we pointed out, it's a good graphic representation of a dramatic part of the scam, the rug pull, when those who are shorting bonds get absolutely decimated. The widowmaker, as it's called. And we've had people on the show for years saying, oh, the bond market's topping out. It's topping out for sure. And it hasn't topped out in 40 years. So here you have another example of it. And what happens is the Federal Reserve Bank will go on and do a press conference and say they're worried about inflation, but they don't see them raising rates for 2 years, right? Here's the facts, and I'll state them again. And while they were doing their press conference this week, I gave a verbatim kind of answer to what the questions that they were going to get in their answers before they did it, half hour before they gave the answers. I gave a verbatim, exact, word for word, what they would say. And they are basically in a position where it's impossible to raise rates, but they will always threaten to raise rates. There is runaway inflation now, but they will never acknowledge it. In fact, they'll call it deflation. And the 10-year note is going to go under 1%, and that's where it's about 1.5%. That's down from 20%, where it was with Paul Volcker when I started on Wall Street in the early 1980s, but it's going even lower. And that kabuki theater of pretending like there is some kind of price discovery in the bond market or the American economy as a whole. Remember, no price of anything in the American economy is based on supply and demand or free market capitalism. Every single price is exactly dictated by a Politburo of policymakers. It's Soviet Union times in America. Meanwhile, Russia is plowing ahead and becoming free market capitalism, figure that one out. But nevertheless, there you have it.
So Bitcoin, hyper-Bitcoinization, Bitcoin is replacing the US dollar as the global reserve currency. Eventually, this is happening. It's happening right now as well. So one of the arguments that they say about Bitcoin is it's too volatile. They also say that one tweet from the likes of Elon Musk can cause it to tumble. So here is one statement from the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell. It caused the bond market to crash, essentially. It tumbled. and yields rose, the bond prices down. And here the opposite happened. Once the investors figured overnight, they were like, oh, we're being tricked, we're being conned. This is what scam coin people do. They trick you into keep on piling into their coin. Then the bond market rallied and yields collapsed immediately after. So this is the Fed statement, and then this is once they figured out what the subtext of the Fed was saying was actually things are still bad.
Right, you remember that cartoon Peanuts, and Lucy would hold the football for Charlie Brown, and he'd come racing toward the football, and just at the last second, Lucy would pull it away, and Charlie Brown would fall on his back. And he'd do it over and over and over again. Well, since Alan Greenspan now, we're talking 30 years, they've been doing the same thing every quarter. Every single quarter, it's the exact same play. And the media eats it up. They report that, oh my God, they might raise interest rates. But they can't raise interest rates because there is no possible way. Very rarely do you have guarantees in the financial world, but that's a dead certain guarantee. They can't raise rates. Dead stop. That's it.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now, let's continue.
Right, so we've seen the rug pull that deceived Mark Cuban in the altcoin market. Now we're seeing a rug pull looking sort of movement in the price of bonds. Now I want to turn to where the rug pull on all of us is happening, and that is that inflation number. What the price fixing of the price of money and how much it's taking from you, which is what altcoins do, really, right? As Max said at the top of the show, what they're hoping for is that you send them your Bitcoin and they print out their free altcoins and send it to you at no cost to them. They didn't have to mine it. They just printed it, send it to you, and you give them your hard-earned Bitcoin. So the similar thing is happening, as Kyle Bass has pointed out this week on CNBC. Kyle Bass says we have negative real rates of over 10%. Kyle Bass says actual inflation is 12%. So again, this is something that we've been covering. This is the rug pull. The Fed goes out there and speaks to you and says like, oh, we're really worried that inflation might go, we're trying to get it to 2%. We're trying to get it to go up to 2%. In the meantime, you're like, dude, it's 12%. It's already 12%. Stop pretending that you're trying to get it up to 2%.
Again, we've been talking about this, and I'm glad to see it's being mentioned on mainstream media. But, basically you've got this negative rate of 10%, which is you take the let's say the 10-year rate or the of roughly 2% on the interest rates, and you subtract the actual inflation rate, which is 12%, and you end up with a negative rate of 10%. So getting back to this real inflation rate of 12%, education, medical care, and housing, if you look at it in terms of the price people pay for houses, in the last 10 years, these things are up 500% each. So some things like clothes made in Vietnam or China are down a little bit. When you add this all up into a genuine basket of stuff that people actually consume, you end up with an annual inflation rate of 12%. The last time inflation in America was running this high was under Paul Volcker, to mention his name again, and he had to raise interest rates to 20%. To wipe out inflation now, WIN, W-I-N, if you remember Gerald Ford had WIN buttons, wipe inflation now. So this is an incredible crisis because inflation running at this level is an unbelievable wealth confiscation scheme from 320 million Americans to a few guys on Wall Street. That's it.
Right. But again, comparing the US dollar to these altcoins where they're trying to get your hard-earned wealth, your store of value, just like the US dollar 50 years ago was created out of gold, a gold-backed currency. So Paul Volcker had to raise rates to 20% to pretend to instill confidence in the global trade partners that this was as good as gold, that the US dollar was as good as gold. So here we have a similar situation where the organizers behind this altcoin, that is the US dollar, that they have to keep on doing things to plug in the holes or change the metrics. So one thing you'll see is, okay, our coin is centralized. We have this head of the organization that runs this coin, the lead developer, and this is the coin this person created. And okay, we're fast. We have more transactions per second than Bitcoin. They try to change like a metric for you to look at. So we're seeing a similar thing. We see it in the repo market. Remember, before even COVID hit, we covered the story of like the interventions in the repo market. It turns out that there was some banks in trouble. Then now we have the reverse repo market. It's like 750 billion in one day. And this is because of all the other interventions that they've done that have caused consequences rippling throughout the system, whether it's in the banking system, the money markets, or like all over the place. So they keep on having to, it's a daily thing of keeping this whole bad code together.
Right, and we've covered on this show many times how Wall Street will rename something.
Yes.
In the hopes that people think that it's different. Now, they don't want to say they're launching QE4, but they are launching Reverse Repo 2, and it's the same as QE, which is the same as debt monetization, which is the same as money printing. Okay, all of those things are exactly the same. But they don't like to say that they're exactly the same because then people would panic. But if you say it's a reverse repo, people are like, I wonder what that is. I have no idea. It sounds like they know what they're doing. Oh, by the way, my cost of my day-to-day life just went up 10%. I don't get it because the government says it's deflation. Oh, is it because they're lying?
Repo man, they're repossessing. This is a rug pull.
This is a rug pull. This is Repo Man. This is it.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active and see you on the other side.